Hello and welcome to John and James Live. My name is John Hastings with my co-host, Mr. James Selo. And today, James Selo, we are talking about what parts of life, human life, can AI not take over?
Wow.
Big question, James.
That's a huge existential question right there.
It's coming thick and fast. We've got the robots, the legions of them, the Terminators. They're coming for our jobs. They're coming for our wives.
Oh,
Probably going to take our dogs. I can imagine us just walking the little. Would the dog walk us, or are we walking the AI dog? I'm not really too sure.
Or the robot will walk the dog, I guess.
The robot would walk the dog. Or does that? Nothing needs walking anymore, does it? I guess not. No, yeah. It's confusing. So we're going to go through different areas of life, and we will see. I will play devil's advocate a little bit,
as is your want.
That's what I do, James. And then we'll decipher what the hell's going on, because people are a little bit scared, aren't they, about their jobs and things like that. So, as we are mainly on LinkedIn, let's start with LinkedIn, James. I would say, how is AI going to impact LinkedIn, James? And is maybe LinkedIn a means to an end? Do people really want to be on LinkedIn posting?
Well, there's so much on LinkedIn that you can see is influenced by AI now. I mean, it is in most posts, isn't it? That people are suddenly cottoning on to what they can do with AI in terms of image generation or articles or anything like that, that you've got this very polarized perspective of people that see it as cheating.
Yeah.
And then others that see it as enhancing what people already have or the talents that they have. And actually, you know, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't use AI to enhance that. And then I guess there's some people that just fall somewhere in the middle. And maybe there's a level of apathy that they're not really worried one way or the other, and they're not particularly interested. But either way, there's a big old pendulum swing between people that are embracing it, people that are resisting it, and people that are slightly agnostic. But
where are you at, James, on that?
I'm pro. I'm definitely pro. I think
you don't care. What if it's okay, I'm the creator. I create.
You're going to play devil's advocate again.
Well, you know, a little devil. So I create videos, and I've spent my life creating them, and I'm a storyteller, and I make these amazing video concepts. And AI is fake, James. It's not real human feeling and emotion conveying on the screen. Do you care, or do you agree with that?
I don't agree with that.
Oh,
I don't agree with that.
James, because you hurt my feelings.
There's still a creator there, mate, isn't there? There's still somebody that's typing in prompts. There's still that creative process that's going on. So it's just a tool. It's just
you don't care if it's AI created. It's more the outcome that you're worried about. Okay, you've got a piece of visual art in reality. You love an art gallery. You've worked in that space. I love an art gallery. I love art. Do I care if the art has been made by robots and it's splashed paint onto a canvas, or do I want it to be some type of human depth of meaning, or I'm just creating this meaning in my head?
Well, there's art that's been created by an elephant with a paintbrush.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for me that art really comes down to a visual interpretation of what's being presented to you in that moment in time. It's like a snapshot in time. Now, as soon as you start to know more about the process that went on behind creating that piece of art, the backstory, the intentionality of the artist, that kind of changes.
It does, yeah.
What you're being shown, because if you then suddenly start to understand what the intention was, then it then imbues it with a whole different meaning. And it's not then necessarily about an emotional response to what you're seeing. it's more intellectualized, that you're starting to kind of think, well, actually, that was the intention. They put that mark there because that represents whatever. So I guess there's two sort of layers to this in respect of that visceral response to what's in front of you at that moment in time, and then knowing what the intention was, the artist that created it. Now, if we're talking about robots creating art, and there's a program that's been put in there, well, somebody had to design that program. You know, so you had to go in there and they said, okay, well, you need to make that brushstroke a series of ones and zeros needed to program for that thing to do that mark. So there's an intentionality there as well. So
this sounds like a brand story, James.
Could be.
Is that what you're buying into?
Could be. But that's
buying into the brand story of the art. Is that what it is?
My interpretation of what, and it's still relevant. You know, it exists in the world, and you're going to have an emotional response to it. So either that response is disgust and derision that this has been produced by a machine, or you go, well, let's look at it for what it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's been created one way or another. It's been created, and you know, you could do this sort of blind test that you didn't know that it was created by a machine. And how would you feel about it then, to opposed to then knowing that this was a machine, this was a robot that created it?
Is that the Turing art test? Is it, James? Is that what they?
That's very much so. That's very much so.
The Turing test, anyone, is for the to tell if it's a robot or not. Apparently, Alan Turing, top guy.
Thank you for that little.
Thanks for full of information. But you are right, James. It's a tricky one. People do get emotional about it. I'm more in your camp. We're both a bit camp, some might say. And I don't care that much about it, to be honest. If I've got a nice piece of art, do I mind who painted it or who produced it, or if it's been digitally created? For me, I can understand if you buy into the brand story, maybe. But in general, I don't mind.
It's an interesting one, because if you were given a Picasso, for example, and you were looking at it and think, I've got a Picasso. There ain't many people in the world that own a Picasso, an original. So it's undeniable that imbues into it a layer of value, clearly, but, you know, the mysticism of it.
Nancy Kerr, how are you, Nancy? Hope you're well. John, could you please slow down? I'm having a bit of difficulty understanding your accent. I think, sorry, Nancy, I will.
Nancy, I've been saying this for a long time.
Don't know what it is, Nancy. It's because we're doing lives once a week now. I am hyper excited.
You get verbals.
I only get to speak to James once a week now, and I'm hyped for the lives. But I will slow my posh London accent down.
Yeah, okay? Yeah, less council estate.
I'll relax.
More real estate.
More real estate. But you're right, James. This is a touchy subject, and there are people on LinkedIn I've seen that get very touchy in the creative space. I get it with the AI. Obviously, I don't like that the companies are sucking in people's creativity, throwing it into their machine, and then using their, whatever you call it, IP to create these different versions of it. The AI company's getting potentially loads of money, and then the human creator's been sucked dry. So I think in that term, I would say that that's a more systemic problem. That's not really the output problem, is it? It's more a systems problem rather than do I care if James has painted the picture or it's James AI that's done it. I'm happy either way. And I guess I reckon inside your home, I reckon we're probably going to have some type of holographic design elements to our homes, I guess. Instead of having decor, we're probably going to be able to change up the vibe, and it will be like some 3D environment. Do you think the floor will be? I can just imagine floor, ceiling, walls, and it will, and you'll just say, right, put me in the Amazon, and it will just be like whoosh.
Yeah.
So maybe it just be a box. Maybe it's just been a black box, James.
Maybe. So that's the physical act of creating art, as in either through sculpture or, you know, painting, whatever medium. But I feel that performance art is something very different. So that's, you know, theatre, for example, street theatre, whatever, however.
Who goes to the theatre, James? What do you think? I've made of money.
Plenty. I haven't been for a
that's
while.
for the upper classes, James. Theatre.
No, mate.
Come on. Nancy, do you go to the theatre? I don't know who can afford. Only James can afford that.
Or street theatre, as I said. That was my little caveat. But anything like that is, you know, it's humans.
I guess. But how big is that? How big is the theatre? I would say that it's relatively small in comparison to, say, Hollywood.
Yeah, but we're talking about things that will survive AI. I mean, obviously, you've got, you know, holograms, and those can be projected anywhere around the world. So in terms of performance,
they're getting good, aren't they, James?
They are getting good.
Have you seen that Michael Jackson hologram thing? Because once you're in the movie theater, depending where your seats are, if you're in bloody row Z, then you ain't going to be able to tell too much difference anyway, are you?
So Nancy doesn't like theater. Nancy, why don't you like theatre?
Come on, Nancy. You got to get cultured, Nancy. You got to get to the theatre.
So I've got this thing. Makes me feel, and I don't know why it makes me feel uncomfortable, but amateur dramatics makes me feel uncomfortable.
Really?
That obviously speaks volumes about me, but I cannot go and see, like, you know, the village players go and do some sort of hammy performance of Hamlet.
Really? You're a proper theatre critic, are you, James? You need top level.
I do need quality.
Yeah. It's probably like watching a third division football team, maybe.
Well, it's maybe different. That's maybe different. But, you know, people that think they can act and really they should.
Too loud for Nancy. Yeah, I'm with you. I go to a bar nowadays. I think it's age. I say it's too loud. It's too loud in here. The theatre's
you've changed, mate. You've changed.
I did have a client who's got me tickets to the opera, and I gave them away, and he was not amused. He really wanted me to go, and I really regret that. It was
going to be good for you. He knew it was going to be.
He knew it.
Mate.
He gave me a chance, and I blew it.
I went to see Orpheus and the Underworld when I was about 15, 16, and did the whole tuxedo, black tie.
Really?
Experience, and everybody else was in like jeans.
Yeah.
But I went proper. There were a few people. One lady, bless her, came out of the toilets and had the skirt tucked into the back of her pants. That's, you know.
Yeah, no, like it. I think there's something in this, James. I think you've touched on something about the human connection with the theatre piece. I think you're actually right that it will come back to the live experience, and things like the theatre are going to be seen as something that are even more important. People are going to navigate towards them. Humans, I think even children, I know some people, even when I was at school, I was probably feeling a little bit too self-conscious to be over dramatic.
Yeah.
But I think there's something good and nice and good. Good and nice and good. I think about it.
All right, Trump. So we've got one word I'm going to say at this moment is catharsis. And that's the interaction and the emotion coming from the audience. Oh, Nancy, rather be in the mountains.
The people shouting in your ear.
It does sound good, Nancy. I don't know which theatres you go to, Nancy. Those are...
Nancy is based in India, so it is. It could be quite busy there. The whole Bollywood scene. It's a lot of razzmatazz, isn't it?
Oh,
I guess, but I think you're right, James. I think you're you've touched on the theatre side, the acting, the human connection, the human expression. I think there probably will be a theatre production with robots only. It will probably be a niche thing, won't it? It's going to
Acting might be a
happen,
little
isn't it?
wooden,
Yeah, a little.
bit
They might be a
robotic.
little rusty,
A little bit robotic.
but we know.
WD-40.
Yeah, I think. But imagine though, it's going to be these, high-end robots acting, which are going to be incredible. Then you're going to have the holograms at the same time, so it'll be a sort of immersive theater experience. So I don't think we're going to lose that, but I don't think it's massively big anyway. But what I think we may lose, James, is Hollywood will start to change quite a bit. The thing is with Hollywood, James, I'm thinking I prefer movies from 20, 30, 40 years ago. Don't you feel like the storylines were so much better in the past?
Well, it seems like it's
CGI.
very rare to get a good storyline and CGI.
CGI
The CGI is there to kind of almost do the heavy lifting for the storyline. You've got a terrible storyline. I thought if we make this visually incredible, that people won't actually worry too much about the storyline, whereas the opposite, complete opposite is the case. You can have a very low budget film with a great storyline and it just be an amazing, and some of those are just the best type of films. Yeah. Because they've had to keep it really tight and controlled. And those
some of your good old films, James, that you like. I've got a couple of films that come to mind. One is a random one. I'd be interested to see if you've heard of it, but one called Mandy, a black and white film about a deaf girl. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I hadn't seen that one coming from you, to be fair.
Trust me. I remember being at my grandparents' house. Mandy came on, and it did come back on. I can't remember, maybe a couple of years ago, and it just took me back to that time. And the film was so, I don't know, inviting and interesting in a weird way. Who would have think a black and white film about a little deaf girl would have been a big hit? Then there was that other Christmas one about black and white film again, about, you will know this, I can't remember the name, but it's about the guy he loses his job. He goes through difficulties. I think it's not Scrooge. Do you know which one I'm talking about? He wants to kill himself.
Oh, is that the one with where he goes on a sort of rampage with a rifle? Is that?
It's an old black and white film.
It's an old black and white one.
Yeah.
Yes.
He goes on that journey, doesn't he? He's got a shop or he's got a
Wonderful
bank.
Life.
It's a Wonderful Life.
There we go.
Life. What a beautiful! There's no CGI.
It's a lovely allegory. So
that touched my heart. That James.
I studied, and I don't know if I've told you this or not, but I did film noir. So I did film studies at university.
You didn't.
I did.
Get that right. Let's go to Nancy before you to talk about this one, James. Oh no, man, it's been ages since I have seen any movies, whether Bollywood or otherwise. I prefer not to say in crowded places that it drains my energy. Yeah, for some personalities, it is a bit of a drain, isn't it?
And for others, it's an
energizer. I think for us, James, we love a bit of social. So James, go back to you. So you did film studies.
So film noir, and it was all about the femme fatale, so women's role in cinema.
James is logged off of us there. I will carry on. So I think James is going to talk about his place in film noir, but if we carry on this tangent, what else will AI not replace? So I think in terms of relationships, how do we feel that the whole space in terms of relationships is going to evolve? Because if we look at the divorce rate now of say 50%, and that's for people that are married, we already know that relationships are potentially heading into quite dodgy territory. So we got to think, is a robot partner gonna be the way forward? Are people gonna more likely speak to a robot? Will they get enough out of it? Will that robot respond exactly how they want it to respond? Will they have all the same interests as the robot? I get it that this is not part of a sort of reciprocal relationship like a human being will have, but we can see at the moment that potentially some of these human relationships are fragmenting quite a bit. And if we look at the households now across the country, do we see potentially dads going in one direction, watching a program? Do we see mum watching her programs? Do we see the kids in their own virtual worlds as well? I would say that potentially is the robot partner going to be the way forwards. So let me know what you think. I think it actually could be, to be honest. Hey, James.
We have internet issues.
Internet issues. Don't worry, I carried it on and I've moved on to relationships on this part. So we've gone,
wow.
You know, we talk about divorce rates are pretty high. You know, people in their households are watching different movies, they're into different things. You know, is the future some type of robot relationship rather than human relationships, James? Is that the way that we're heading at the moment?
Well, people are having relationships with AI, aren't they? You know, creating these AI bots that can talk to you like a therapist and talk to you in the way that you want to be talked to. And it will challenge you gently, but challenge you in the way that you've asked to be challenged. So it's all a little bit contrived, I suppose, in that respect. And unless you build into it unpredictability, it's going to be predictable.
It's going to be predictable. But when you say that relationships are quite predictable after a while anyway, you move into a different stage of the relationship. So as humans, is that already built in predictability? What do you think, James?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, isn't it? Because like you think things are unpredictable, but sometimes can follow patterns. And then when you think you see patterns, then they become unpredictable.
Yeah, we all know, you know, longer term relationships. Sometimes it ends up, it is a little bit, it can be a little bit like Groundhog Day. You sort of, you know what to expect, you know how each other acts, you know pretty much everything about each other. You have your routines. So I guess, is it going to be any more predictable or unpredictable than a normal relationship? To be honest, James, I'm not really too sure. That says, I don't think you can expect robots to make you feel seen and heard. Neither can they become caregivers. What do you think, James?
Yeah, I'm going to challenge it. I'm going to challenge it because
Nancy, James is challenging this concept. So let's start off with the first bit. Can robots make you feel seen and heard? I personally would say 100% they can, and potentially more than a human. They haven't got the ego base. No, a lot of humans potentially not that great at listening, are they?
they're not having a bad day, that's for sure. So
having a bad day.
You know, if we sort of romanticize and say that a human being is always going to be there with a kind, listening ear, I think, you know, we're deluding ourselves. Whereas, you know, an AI entity is always ready. Is never having an off day. Is always time to listen. And
I'm using it now, James, as a feedback.
And I think it's only a matter of time. They'll become, you know, when we think about something as simple as, you know, going like that on a photograph on your phone, that has now become so finely tuned in our brains that even on a physical photograph, you'll still, or in a magazine, you'll still find yourself, unless you catch yourself doing it, trying to go like that to zoom into a photograph. Because
auto response, isn't it now on this one?
So having something like that over time, it's just going to become normalized.
Yeah.
That
So.
You'll have human beings for one thing or whatever, and then you'll have technology for something else. And the emphasis or the responsibility is then put onto something else. So that frees us then up to be more whatever we need to be. So you'll still have the option. I don't know that we'll ever lose that need to interact with another human being in that respect, but I think maybe it will be kind of slightly more tailored to what actually we need at that moment in time.
The signs are not good though, James, are they? Look at the screen time at the moment for humans. We did an article, didn't we, on this? It was like 7 to 16 hours a day screen time. So we're already locked onto a screen, and that's just a little handheld thing, more than we actually interacting with humans.
Yeah.
So we're already there, aren't we? In terms of caregiving, I think caregiving will be an area which will provide a lot of help for people. I think it's going to be if you can get the dexterity right. I was just listening to a podcast of Elon Musk talking about 80% of the engineering is basically in the hands. They've got to try and get these hands right. So it's all about forearm levers and leverages and biomechanics in the forearm, which is giving you dexterity in the hands. This is the hardest part of this AI robot engineering quest. So if we can get the dexterity in the hands, then all of a sudden you open up the door to caregiving. And it just popped into my mind. I thought, okay, how would this caregiving go? You could probably have your deceased parent's voice coming out of this robot. No, crazy spins it.
That went dark really quickly. Wow.
What about your dead dog's woof coming out of this machine? No, but it's going to be as connected as you want it. I guess you could have, parents, grandparents talk to you through this machine. It's going to be very connective. It's going to be immersive. It's going to be able to play music. It's going to pretty much know everything about you, isn't it? So Nancy says they can provide support, but they may not offer helpful suggestions when needed. For example, if someone is using drugs, they might justify that behavior by saying it's okay to use them, but only in moderation. This is because they are often trained to agree with people too readily. I think, Nancy, this, to be honest, James, I would say this would be easily remedied. I think this is going to be any type of these glitches where it's agreeing to stuff like that are going to be eradicated out of the system.
Programming will be such that they will take scripts from the internet of, prevalent psychoanalysts, therapists, whatever, that will come up with a solution that they will find on the internet in that scenario. And it will come from, and yes, you won't have the humanistic nuances of it in that moment in time necessarily at the moment, but it will be able to scrape the web and come up with, the thing is that humans still make mistakes. We are inherently human, and in that case, the advice that we can give can be based on emotions at that moment in time, and that can cloud our judgment. Whereas if you've got something that's, as I said, scraping the web, it's taking all the best advice that's out there with with the greatest outcomes, with the best outcomes, it can inject that into that scenario within milliseconds and give a response, appropriate to that particular situation. So,
And this is version 1, James. It's like horse and carriage versus a Ferrari, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is so primitive.
We interact with these entities because, if we just see them as something that's robotic, regurgitating information, and there's no empathy, there's no feeling in that respect, then immaterial of what we say, the response is going to be jaundiced.
Yeah.
But you'll take that advice as go, well, this is just an algorithm. It's not real. It's not a human being. So, why would I listen to it in that moment in time? Whereas, you're quite well positioned to comment on how you've interacted with the AI that you've been currently working with and know how you've responded as an individual emotionally to the information that you've been getting from it. And it seems to be that if there's a device or there's a mechanism that can catch us when we're at our darkest or at our lowest point and flip that switch where we won't necessarily reach out to somebody. So in terms of a wearable, if it could detect skin temperature, for example, heart rate variability, even, the amount of sweat on your skin, and through all of that information can come up with you feeling depressed or low or whatever, or having, suicidal ideation, for example, that some level of intervention could be presented to you right there and then without you even having to necessarily ask for it, that it take you down this route to pull you away from the abyss. I feel kind of this is something that's coming, that it will intuitively know all of the signals, all of the signs. It can pick up, brain wave frequency
activity. Yeah, it's gonna do that. You're right.
Okay, this is the beta or alpha wave that's happening right now. This is an indication of whatever. Here's an intervention.
Yeah, because how long does it take at the moment if you've got a mental health problem? We've had people who've said they've been to the doctors and it takes them months to get any type of support anyway in this system. So I think this AI can only be an improvement in intervention. It's going to get there quicker, isn't it?
Yeah,
miles
it could
quicker.
Literally just be a message that pops up to remind you of something.
Yeah.
Love that you're this, that, reminds you of your kids or your spouse or anything that just enables you to come out of that loop of desperation. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm just, spitballing that out there to say that that's how I feel this is going to go, that could potentially save a life.
I think so. The only different, it's early days. So, I love the AI tools. Brilliant. I've been building them in the background, GPTs, personalized custom ones to help support people. I would say the big difference or downside is at the moment is that you have to initiate, whereas human interaction is a two-way initiation process. So, it doesn't talk to you unless you talk to it. Yeah. Which is a huge difference in human communication.
Well, that'll change.
That will change, but
it will, initiate. It won't wait.
That will make a big difference if it's got a contextual understanding of when to initiate. Basically, like how are you, John? I can see that you're feeling a bit off, or just randomly tells you something about an area that you're in or something like that, something interesting. Yeah. I think it will make a huge difference.
It's an interesting thing. If ever you contact a business and you get put through to a chatbot, the way you interact with that chatbot. Now, how many people know or think or assume that they're talking to a human being? Or are we now going, well, this is just a chatbot and it's just pointing me to the number that I need to call to get in this, this filter system that I'm now, having to go through, that obviously saves people in the call center having to answer questions that have been asked, thousands and thousands of times. And now this is just putting me through a series of kind of levels that will then get me to where I need to be. So, you know, I would speculate that quite a few people still think that they are interacting with a human being. So in that case, you know, at the moment, going through with an AI therapist, if you weren't sure, you sort of dialed up something or were online and this thing came up, that would be a different interaction to knowing that you were just in an app and this was AI generated. There was no human being behind that conversation.
Yeah. Because I would say the bots at the moment where you talk customer service bots, I find them so irritating. I just want to talk to a human, just because even if it's like 2 or 3 seconds slower than a human be, it's just still annoying, isn't it? I know we want blood from these things, don't we? But
yeah, but again, that'll get better and better.
You want to read this one, James?
It's on a very small screen, mate. Let me see if I can.
Okay, do you want me to do it?
Yeah, if you can.
Nancy said it's Suicide Awareness Month, and a lot of people are dying quickly. There was a time when I wanted to end my life, and I desperately needed someone to really listen, but I had no one. I even thought about developing a watch similar to what James is talking about, but I believe that no robot can stop me from dying if I truly want to. Only another human can make a difference just by being there for me or giving me a hug. I may be wrong, but this is how I feel. I think, thank you for sharing that, Nancy. I'm sorry to hear that. And that, what you just said there about a hug and human connection, I think that's probably one of the biggest thing missing from counseling, psychology, therapy, is that it's in a way commodified human connection and there's no physical contact.
Yeah.
Which are two huge things for humans. Just to embrace someone is, I think, is huge, James, isn't it? On that side.
I don't know how I came to find out about this, but that, you know, people that offer services just as a hugger, you know, that they will literally themselves to have that physical contact with somebody. And it's, you know, it's not sexual, it's not, you know, in that respect, but it is just literally to be somebody who gives people, and it's, you know, it's a paid profession that they will put themselves in a situation where they are providing human contact, human to human, in the form of a hug and touch. And the fact that those people exist is an indication as to, you know, people that actually don't get that regularly enough as a salve for their, you know, emotional turmoil. And, you know, people are different. I mean, that's one of my love languages, you know, and very tactile. And I need to feel connected in that respect. I need that closeness and a hug. And holding it for, you know, more than whatever the length of time is for the, you know, the serotonin and whatever.
It's 2.4 seconds. Exactly. 2.4 second hug.
4 seconds. It feels longer than that, but anyway. To get that.
But you are right, though. I think Nancy makes a great point. Is, you know, I didn't really think about that as much. And I would say, is a robot going to be able to replace physical touch on that level, James?
So what are we thinking of robots in their current form?
I'm thinking about these, you know, aesthetically, you know, pleasing ones that are, you know, look like skin. They look like a human face. They're soft. Maybe it's a robot skeleton, but you can't really change the difference. Their actual movements look human. They probably got warmth. They're probably going to have warmth. But is it going to be able to replicate?
Yeah, that's so interesting, isn't it? Because until you've experienced it, Who is know what that feels like, because, and again, it's the knowledge of what it is that you're interacting with that doesn't have emotion.
Yeah.
Or human, let's say human emotion has programmed emotion, but not human emotion.
But say you're born into it, James, you probably won't know the difference. You don't know any different.
Is the result the same? If you are interacting with something that feels human, looks human, sounds human, who's to say that is not a relevant interaction that will trigger, in terms of the amygdala, that response, that emotional response, and a reaction that you would get from hugging a human being.
Yeah. And, this is not the same thing, but I did have a little trip to France recently, and my family member had this very advanced massage chair. And I got to say, James, I was impressed.
See, and that's a chair. That's not even
this thing was hugging me all over.
Wow.
It was. Yeah, I was impressed. I couldn't believe it. It was squeezing and rolling, and it, and if that can do that, I was a little bit like, oh my God, this is good.
Yeah.
This is really good. So if you entwine that with something that aesthetically looks like a human with AI, I don't know, James.
See,
I don't know. I just don't know how adaptable we could get. Nancy thinks no, but I think Nancy that humans are a bit romantic about human experience potentially.
Yeah. It's going to be a situation where you've got an individual who's in a loving relationship with family, close knit, all that sort of thing, that have got that readily available to them. And then you have people that don't have access to that. And that's a very different conversation. So for you and I, we have people around us that will provide that. But
how many relationships, James, and people don't even hug each other anyway? They're a bit cold. They're sexless marriages. How many people are in sexless marriages?
But they could
it's
be
huge.
But also still have contact. I think that needs to be defined, is that you can have a sexless marriage but still have that level of closeness and contact. It just doesn't, evolve into sex. So
or you can have a hug and it feels like a stone. You can have a hug and contact and it feels like nothing, can't you?
Yeah. And that's,
you don't feel anything. You feel dead.
Between you and the person, that's, whether they're just kind of limp and it's a perfunctory act with no feeling, no empathy. But again,
or you're just not connected to that person anymore. Maybe if like the whole relationship is disconnected, you're going through the motion of the act of the hug, the connection, but there's no connection there.
Or a breakup hug, or whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
So it can mean a multitude of different things. But like that massage chair, I mean, it would have just been a series of rollers and probably inflatable kind of pods or whatever that was giving you that experience. And again, those sort of things could be programmed into an entity that would, fingertip pressure, palm of the hand, in terms of the arms, and an enveloping kind of bear hug type thing.
Yes, we can see how beautiful you felt, John, just by looking at your face.
Yeah.
James?
I'm here.
James, you felt beauty, didn't you, when you looked at my face when we first
Beauty's a strong, and we hugged well, didn't we?
Yeah, we're very sociable, huggy type guys, aren't we? We're quite touchy feely.
Yeah. Tactile.
Yeah, we're HR's worst nightmare.
And that's the thing. It's like, you know, with the whole kids at school thing and teachers not being able to hug the kids and teaching assistants not being able to hug the kids. It was a real...
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it, James? I saw that the other day. I watched the school dropping their kids off at the park, and the teachers were so militant, and I was just thinking, man, these kids some of them just need a hug, don't they? They need some connection. They need a hug. So I guess that brings us into education, James, is in the education realms with teaching and things like that. Is that going to be taken over? Or I was also listening to Sam Altman podcast recently, and he said he thinks that a lot of the practical side of teaching will just go out, you know, the window. It'll be a more immersive, more understanding teacher. But the people that have come across his life that have inspired him, taken an interest in him, have been human.
Yeah.
So how are we going to weigh that up?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, because you hear stories time and time again of people who, you know, are in the media, and they will cite a teacher that inspired them to become an actor, or inspired them to, you know, science teacher that got them into whatever field that they've excelled at. So there seems to be a common denominator that somebody, whether it was a teacher or an individual.
Did you have that, James? So have you got a personal story about somebody who's inspired you?
Yeah, I had two really, I mean, very different characters, but both of my English teachers, a Mr. Cheeseman and a Mr. Flint. And Mr.
Nice.
Flint was sort of quintessentially 1970s, and these sort of brown suits with flares and sort of a beard, and sort of scraped over black hair, and quite an austere sort of guy, but just passionate, I mean, to his core for the subject. And Mr. Cheeseman, who also taught me rugby. He was a rugby coach, and very different, and read Chaucer, but read Chaucer in the sort of the language and the accent of Chaucer, which is very oldie English. But both of them just seemed to love their subject, and it was infectious.
I think you're right there. That is something about people when they've got passion. There's so much energy, isn't there? It's so engaging. I can't imagine a robot with excessive passion. Can you, James? I know it could be programmed in, but it's the whole body language, the energy. Can we ever replicate that? I don't think that's going to be replicated, is it?
Not for a while, maybe. But again, like I said, you know, become this thing that we start to interact in a different way, and becomes normalized, and you just kind of accept that that's what it is now, that teachers don't exist anymore in human form, that, you know, we'll come to a point where we don't go to school anyway. It will just be programmed, directed into our brains. You know, the knowledge that we need to survive will just be implanted. There won't be the normal kind of learning
100%
that we've had. It would just be...
It'd be automatically, it'd just be there, won't it?
Yeah.
On tap, 24/7, all the knowledge in the world. You probably won't even need it, will you?
No, you'll have a device that, you know, very much like we have now, that you can just Google it. You know, AI will provide that anything, you know, if you're out in the world, there'll be an implant in your eye, you'll look at something and it'll tell you what it is.
100%.
Straight away, know what that tree is, what that plant is, what that river is, where it goes, how fast it's currently flowing at. You know, all this sort of information is just going to be so readily available that actually learning is not required anymore, because the information is all there for you.
We can see the logical trajectory, can't we? The path of where it's going to go. If we go through some professions that potentially are going to disappear, I would say accountants, lawyers,
Yeah.
Potentially marketeers, consultants, McKinsey's, those type of things. Anything that's anything to do with information. Potentially, I've seen interior design. I've seen some unbelievable apps where you just take a picture of the room and it just comes up. And then all of a sudden it's already connected to all of the stores where you can buy the stuff, and it will buy it for you.
Yeah.
Which is just unbelievable. And then you can,
what it won't do is put it up for you. You know, it won't install it for you.
It won't. Yeah, that's going to be an issue. But again, maybe the house internally is going to change. Like I said, are we going to have like holographic walls where it can automatically change to any style you want to completely? So you won't just have normal walls.
Still have these things as well. So even though visually it's changed, you know, the tactile
That's
nature
true. Of the materials, that type of stuff. So I guess you're still going to have, but again, could it be the robots that deliver it to you? Smell
of, like, you know, oak or some fabrics, all those sort of things are still.
And we can replicate those, can't we?
Yeah.
These are something that I'm thinking. You know, we're thinking short term. I'm thinking long term. They're going to be replicated, aren't they? Pretty much any type of coach, I think, is going to disappear.
Yeah.
I can't think of many. All the driving jobs gonna go. LinkedIn, are people actually going to be on LinkedIn, James? What is LinkedIn? Is LinkedIn a means to an end? Would anybody in their right mind, unless you've got like a mission to solve a big problem, if you've got like unbelievable amounts of money and you don't need to be on LinkedIn, would anybody be on it?
No. I mean, the need goes away.
They wouldn't be on it, would they?
No. And, you know, there's comments that I was reading the other day that people get quite upset if it starts to look a little bit like Facebook. And the relevance of a particular article that's on LinkedIn that shouldn't be on LinkedIn. The lines have become irreversibly blurred anyway. And it's, you know, you're either sort of saying, well, you know, this is the human condition and it's an emotion that somebody's having, and therefore shouldn't be on LinkedIn. It should just be purely, I'm selling something, want you to buy it, end of. You know, this is who I'm looking for a job, end of. You know, I'm promoting something, I want investment, and that's it.
Yeah.
And everything else is left to Facebook. So it becomes very desensitized, dehumanized, and transactional, that it's just about buy my shit.
But why are people on these platforms in the first place, James? They're deep down, because you could say, okay, maybe LinkedIn, maybe you don't want to be on there. But then you look at places like Instagram. I had this conversation with my wife this week, and I was just like, I think it's quite a feminine platform, Instagram. It seems to attract women. It affects women in a certain way. I don't know if it's the competitive competition between women, but it seems to, you know, get into their ego, and they're sort of having this competition around what they're doing or status signaling. They're not necessarily on there to make money, aren't they? They're probably, is it just a place where people are trying to reconnect, and this is like the outlet for them to feel valid or worthwhile, because in their real world, they're not really feeling it?
Well, it's an interesting one, because, you know, you've got individuals, and I'm going to say individuals because, you know, men and women are similar in that respect, but, you know, they sort of start off and it's like therapy for them. And they'll make videos and they'll just talk to the camera and say, look, you know, I'm having a shit day, lost my job, my dog died, wife has run off with the next door neighbor, blah, 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 whatever that might be. You know, that's obviously a generalization. and then, you know, maybe they'll get a level of following and people want to hear that, you know, other people are having a shit time, and they can then relate to that sort of vulnerability piece, and then it starts to kind of evolve. And if they do it consistently enough, that people can then start to relate and connect, and then the more they do it, and then maybe they'll get, you know, so many likes, so many followers, that puts them into a bracket of influencer, and that can then be monetized, and then it takes on a very different perspective. So, and it seems like
not many people are in that camp, though, are they? Then there's not many. It seems like there's a lot of influencers, but 99% of people are consumers.
Well, you've got micro influencers, you've got, you know, ones that are in the sort of 20 to 50,000 kind of bracket that would be classed as a micro influencer, I guess. And then you've got ones that have got sort of 100,000 plus, and then obviously into the sort of several millions. Yeah. And the super influencers, you know.
But people are on what I'm saying is, James, even if you know, you don't need to be on LinkedIn pitching, people are on social media platforms, potentially it's addiction, and they get something from it. They're trying to connect, aren't they? Whether they're trying to connect with themselves, it might not be a good way to connect, but they are trying to do it. Nancy says, believe me, it's not required. I have connections with multimillionaires in my network who don't even have 500 connections. LinkedIn is nowhere near what it was earlier.
Well, seemingly the irony of it is that people that
are on it.
Yeah. Well, the people, there's an irony, but the people that have got, you know, the influence and the resources aren't on it because they don't need to be. You know, they've got no interest. You know, the people that are on LinkedIn are there trying to survive.
Yeah. Or these entrepreneurs that are on LinkedIn, they're either trying to make more money or they're on a mission. They've got like a social mission and they're trying to spread a message, and this is just a channel, isn't it, to spread a message. So I can see how it would be used if you've got like a problem you want to solve, and this is the way to get in front of people. So I can see it that way.
Dare I say it, grandstanding and an ego or whatever, who knows? That's, you know, that's I leave that up to people's opinion, but you know, it's just I find it fascinating.
So what else, James, just to finish us off, anything else that you can think of that humans will not be replaced with AI? Anything come into your head where you think, no, this is just purely a human thing and AI is not going to touch it? I'm trying to think of most professions and I can't see much. You know, obviously we've got entertainment, professional sport. No one wants to watch, you know, robot football players running around.
No. Religion, we haven't really touched on religion, have we?
No, we haven't. So community gatherings.
So are you going to react and respond to a robot?
Like a robot priest.
Robot priest in the pulpit. It's going to be very different, isn't it? But then that ties into sort of the human emotion.
Yeah.
And, you know, the relevance of it. You couldn't have a robot in a dog collar, for example.
Yeah.
And that
so maybe we're going to go all the way round, aren't we, James? We're going to come back to live experiences, and they're going to be valuable. Like Gary Vaynerchuk reckons people are going to be paying other people to go for a walk with them. It's going to be that type of society in the future. Like you said, with the hugging services, might be walking services, could be live interaction events, experiences. I think they're probably going to be more sought after, aren't they? And I think really maybe we've got to reframe it to think, do we want AI to take mundanity away? And you can still have, you know, AI create, movies, but you can also create a movie yourself, can't you? Using AI or without AI, you might not have to monetize it, which might be a good thing. You could just create for I still want to play acoustic guitar, even though I can now press a button and have a song made for me in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It's not the same as me actually learning the instrument, feeling the sound, playing it.
Yeah.
I can do both, can't I?
And well, what you would do is use AI to enhance that learning experience.
Could do, yeah. I could do. Or I can have another guy who doesn't have to make money anymore, and we all get around and he likes teaching, and this is our thing. He teaches me how to play guitar, and it becomes an experience of learning a physical thing together. But maybe we just won't have to monetize every inch of our lives. Maybe we won't have to commoditize everything in terms of human relationship, and maybe AI can help us and liberate us from that, James.
I guess the best is the kind of an appropriate hybridization of AI and human entities. Of that, you've got, best of both worlds, I think.
I agree. Nancy says on Instagram, people are selling their bodies under the label of reconnection. How did we get here where someone can turn their most personal moments into videos for money? Maybe it's because so many of us are starving for real connection. We end up searching for it all in all the wrong places. I 100% agree. It's all orchestrated for money, isn't it? Advertising money, these social media platforms. But like we've seen with the rise of OnlyFans, we've talked before, James, and women selling their body online, specifically women, probably more than guys. Men do it in terms of maybe selling some type of supplements and stuff. Maybe it gets them a few more, but the commodification of the female body and selling that on Instagram in particular and TikTok is huge, isn't it, James?
It's
huge.
It is. And again, you have to talk to the individuals to understand their intention, what they're trying to get out of it, how they feel about it. Obviously there's an empowerment argument to be made that they are utilizing what they've got. It's a means to an end. And they see it as, it's all fair to do that. And then there would be other ones that would feel that possibly they are demeaning themselves, and but it's on a case-by-case basis in terms of the individual. It has to be.
So what happens with these new Instagram influencers, James, where they are AI generated? And they look pretty good at the moment, but they're going to get better. And there's going to be videos. So you're probably going to have, sexual videos with these AI generated people in them, and you're not going to be able to tell the difference. No. So then that whole market completely gets disrupted. If you're a woman or a man and you want to sell your body, potentially you're going to be in competition with a million other AI generated versions that look the same and are free. So then what?
And then it's interesting to see how well we come at differentiating between what's real and what's not real, what's human, what's not human. Those micro movements and expressions that we've evolved over millennia to understand and to process, that still, we can, to an extent, differentiate between the two. But for how much longer is the question.
It's the guy I follow on YouTube, Rick Beato, on the music side, and he was the one who sent me the AI generated song. So his kids, or one of the kids, I think he's got perfect pitch. So you can play any note and he can tell you exactly what it is. B flat, G, whatever. He knows. Not many people got perfect pitch. but he can tell straight away on something in an AI song. That's AI. But he even said, give it 6 months and I probably won't be able to tell.
Yeah.
So there are those small nuances in human behavior. But again, we're so early days. How long before that gets ironed out to the point where you're not going to be able to tell, are you?
Nope.
Anyway, James, thank you for that, sir. Thank you, Nancy, for your contribution today. Sorry for the technical issues. And
sorry about
leave your thoughts, people. If you watch this video in the future, write down what you think. What do you think will remain in the human experience, and what you think is going to disappear?
Yeah, thank you, Nancy, for sharing. Appreciate that. Thanks for your honesty.
Yeah, really appreciate your contribution, Nancy, and thank you, everybody. You take care.
Much love and hugs.
Loads of hugs. Virtual. Real life. Take care, people. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.